I am frozen like a block of ice today. I'm frozen like a block of ice. All right, today we're going to talk about 5 signs that you might need to learn a dominant skill set for your relationship and for your life. Now, a lot of guys don't know that this exists. They don't know what this is. They don't know what dominance looks like for a guy. The fact is, 95% of guys aren't dominant anyway, so this is all crazy mumbo jumbo weird stuff to most of us, right? So today I'm going to talk about 5 things you might look for in your life that if this shit's going on, you probably really need this, right? I think everybody needs it, but if this stuff applies to you, listen close because, it's important. Like for you. All right. So the first sign that you might need to learn a dominant skill set is if you're one of those guys who's like constantly fighting with his girlfriend. I don't know about you, but I've seen, we've all seen couples who are out and they're like fighting heavily with each other all the time in public, and then they break up, and then when they get back together and they've had a few drinks, they're all over each other, and then all of a sudden they're fighting again, and they break up, and then they're back together, and then he's so toxic, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be back with him again, I can't do this anymore. Like, all these things happen to these couples. Well, what is going on? What is that, right? What is going on with that? I'll tell you what's going on with that. A couple that constantly fights has unestablished dominance between the two people. The couple fights, no one wins, and they are still struggling for interpersonal dominance between them. They don't know who's wearing the pants, and it causes a lot of problems because they must know. Specifically, the woman must know. And if she doesn't know, she's going to fight and fight and fight until she does know whether or not she's dominant over the man or whether or not the man is interpersonally dominant over her. Make sense? So if you are a guy in that situation and you have tons and tons of fights and they seem unresolved and you're always breaking up and getting back together and that's kind of your MO as a guy, that's usually what happens in your relationships, you definitely need a dominant skill set. This also goes for you if you're having like the same fight over and over. So if you're a regular guy and that first thing doesn't really apply to you as much, but you're having the same fight, like you and your girlfriend have a fight and then 3 days later it's the same fight, you guys can't get through it, it's the same fight, and the next week it's the same fight, obviously the fight is unresolved. So you might need a dominant skill set. Now, before I go any further, I want to talk about why, since I'm talking about fighting and I'm talking about dominance, I want to talk about how that works. How do fighting and dominance work together? We got 2, 3, and 4 coming up, but how do fighting and dominance work together? Okay. In any fight that you have in your relationship, there's kind of 2 things going on. Number 1 is the actual fight itself, like the topic. Like, what's the fight about, right? And number 2 is there's kind of always going to be a component in your fight about who's going to win. There's a dominance component. When you're fighting, it's a struggle for dominance between you and your partner, right? There's some element of that or some percentage of that in your fight. So if you're having a fight that seems to be about nothing, like if you're a guy and you've told your buddy before, like, dude, it was about a fucking toothpick, or like, it was the fucking Starbucks cup was wrong. We had a fight about that today, and you like can't get your head around how stupid the thing that you're fighting about is. Well, guess what, sir? The fight wasn't about the Starbucks cup. The fight wasn't about the toothpick. The fight was about you and her establishing who's dominant and who's wearing the pants in the relationship. The fight was about her starting a dominance struggle to understand your level of interpersonal social dominance with her so she can decide if you're a real man or not. That's what the fight's about, okay? So, now that we've established that, any fight has 2 components. There's the real fight, or whatever the real topic is, and there's a section in there about dominance between you and her. Make sense? Okay. A second reason that you might want to learn a dominant skill set is if you fear that a breakup is on the way. If you fear, this isn't going good, I've seen this before, right? If you know, God bless you, if you have this kind of a sense, usually a lot of guys don't, they just get broken up with and they wonder what happened for 6 months afterwards. But if you have a sense that something's wrong and you know, oh shit, I've done this before, this is going to result in a breakup, I can just feel it coming, you need that dominant skill set immediately. What's interesting, and I've said this before, is the second you install dominance into your relationship, magically all your problems go away and the woman like acts right. And before you think I sound malicious about that, what I mean by a woman acting right is not causing problems out of nowhere, not robbing your peace, not like just being in a bad mood all the time and picking and prodding and poking and just kind of ruining your day-to-day life. That's what I mean. All right, so that was number 2, if you fear a breakup on the way. Now guess what? Dominant guys don't fear a breakup. Like, I know as a dominant guy, I'd like to think I'm kind of, pretty awesome guy, right? No, dominant guys don't fear breakups because they know they'll just get another girl, right? It's amazing. It's like, you can't really threaten me with a breakup. Oh, what are you going to threaten me with, going out and meeting new women? Ooh, how scary is that, to meet new, fresh women? It's going to be amazing, right? You're not scared of that. But if you're a non-dominant guy and you're fearing a breakup, usually that's associated with like you having to work really hard to get your relationship going and to meet new girls, and this is a very valuable thing, and now you're fearing a breakup, and you also know that you kind of can't control what's going on. You don't feel a measure of control, and that's because you probably don't know how to handle your relationship in a dominant way. Okay, so you might need a dominance skill set. Number 3, and this one is really important. I'm talking to a specific set of guys who may have lashed out at a girl before. If you've lashed out at a girl, or if you felt a little powerless and you've kind of changed the way that you try to dominate the situation, maybe you lash out or yell, or you use derogatory language, or you've become an asshole to your girlfriend, or heaven forbid, you've tried to use physical violence against a girl, or you've felt like you want to, you definitely need a dominant skill set. When guys feel powerless to win a dominant struggle with their partner, oftentimes they can try other forms of dominance to try to dominate the woman. Now, make no mistake, the playing field is social, interpersonal, us talking to each other, dominance to see who kind of like wins the battle, right? If you can win for the both of you, that's the best. But in the beginning of our relationships, there's always going to be a component of the woman trying to figure out who's going to wear the pants, right? So if you find yourself in a place where you're lashing out, probably means you didn't win that and you don't know how to win it. And so you're like, fuck you, bitch, right? And that's like your way to get back at her, right? This is why people hate assholes. Assholes are assholes and they still get women because they're dominant, but they're dominant in an uncalibrated way, right? As guys, we can achieve dominance through other means. I mean, you are always, a vast majority of the time, if you're a man, you're physically dominant already over the person you're in a relationship with, right? So those means can be taken to win dominance, but that doesn't mean it's a prudent choice, and it doesn't mean that it's a great idea for your relationship. Certainly under no circumstances should you have to beat your fucking wife to like get dominance, but sometimes there are men who have urges towards that, or urges to lash out, or urges to call names. So if you're one of those guys and you felt that feeling before, it's really important that you get a dominant skill set together and that you learn these techniques so that you can, not have to do that, and so that you can actually have a peaceful, loving relationship without having to abuse the person you're with, It's a really important thing. So that's number 3. Number 4, if you are a guy who seemingly has no peace in your relationship, if you're dreading the next time she comes in and has another issue, oh God, here it is again, more of this shit, right? If you're one of those guys and you're like, oh fuck, what is it now, right? That is a big sign that you might not be handling her attempts to talk to you, we'll call it that. That's a nice way, right? Her attempts to talk to you, or her attempts at discussion. Those things, if they're ruining your peace and you don't feel like you're handling those well, you're going to need to learn how to handle those so that you can also have peace in your relationship and peace as a guy. It's really important to have, for us men, to have that peace, that security. Give me my time alone. Like, I want you, Patrice O'Neal says, I like want you in the house, but like over there. I don't want you like right here. So if you're a guy like that and you feel like your peace is getting robbed all the time, you need a dominant skill set. All right. Let's see if I can take a breath here for a second. Number 5, and our final thing today. Number 5 reason you might need a dominant skill set is if after a divorce or after a breakup with a girl, if you have kind of trouble like getting back into it, like getting back into the swing of things, this is a really big sign that you probably don't know what happened in the relationship. And usually what did happen is there was an erosion of your level of dominance, or you never established it in the first place. And so not understanding what happened in the relationship likely causes you to really have a hard time getting over it for a long time. I found that when guys understand what happened and why they got broken up with, they're really quick to move on because they've settled it in their mind. They know how to do better, and then they move on. And then magically, when you learn those things and you fix them, you get girls easier. Ooh, excuse me. Holy smokes. You mean I can figure out what happened in my relationship, fix that thing, get girls easier, and move on pretty easy? Yeah. It's pretty simple to explain. I literally do this all day long with like tons of guys. And magically they all go, wow. And that's why, yeah. Oh, that makes sense. And then they move on easy, right? So if you're a guy who can't get back into it or have trouble getting over a breakup, that's why. After, we'll say this and then we'll be done for the video today. After 15 years of teaching guys, the biggest thing I've learned in the last decade, the best thing to happen to men in the last decade is I've learned as a coach, you don't have to do all this crazy shit to get women. If you learn a dominant skill set and you become a dominant guy who just does dominant things, you can literally put yourself in a room with women and they are going to smell that shit on you. They're going to smell that you're a dominant guy. They can see it a mile away and they love it. There's no need for crazy ass routines and learning this thing and, oh my gosh, if she looks at me, that means that. Like, listen, I'm an expert of all those things. And what I learned in the past decade is you don't have to do all those weird things to get women. You can learn a dominant skill set and be in front of women, and they're going to be attracted to your level of dominance. That's our video today, guys. Thanks, and I'll see you very soon.